Hey guys, every time I post about a Mystery Skype on Instagram, I get questions about what a Mystery Skype is, how I find people to do them, how I introduce it to my class. So I thought I would just make a video, that way I have all these answers in one place, and that way if people are looking for more information about Mystery Skypes, hopefully this will help them out some, and that way I can just send this to people who do have questions. So I am going to cover those three things in this video. The first thing I'll talk about just is what is a Mystery Skype. Next I'll talk about how I introduce it to my class, and then last I will talk about how I find classes to do Mystery Skypes with. So here we go, let's get started on what is a Mystery Skype. So a Mystery Skype is when you Skype. It started on Skype, now with like Google Meet and stuff, it doesn't have to be Skype, but you're in a video chat with another class. And while you are video chatting, each class is going to take turns asking each other yes or no questions. And you're trying to find the other class's location. So what state they're from. When I taught 5th grade, we would go to the nearest city, or try to find their exact city. So you'd find their state first, then narrow in to their city. When I teach 3rd grade, we just do the closest state, just because going to the nearest city would be a little bit too, I'd say probably too hard for them. So you can kind of adjust that depending on your grade level, and these can be worldwide as well. Like when I taught 5th grade, we did them with quite a few other countries. So we would kind of start worldwide, like what hemisphere do you live in and stuff like that. So anyways, where they're from can depend on what grade level. Like I said, in 3rd grade, I usually try to keep it within the United States, and we just find the nearest state. So they're gonna go back and forth asking yes or no questions. And it could be anything, but usually it's related to, you know, geography. So I have a map of the United States here, and a lot of the times my class likes to ask, for example, for their first question, like, are you east of the Mississippi River? The Mississippi River pretty much runs right down through the middle of our country. So if the class answers yes, then we know they're obviously east of the Mississippi River. If they answer no, we know that they're going to be on the west side of the Mississippi River. And then it would be the other class's turn. They would ask us a question, and we would answer it based off of our location, which would be Minnesota. And then after their question, then it's our turn again. So maybe if we find out that they are east of the Mississippi River, our next question might be, do you border the Atlantic Ocean? And you're just kind of narrowing it down. You're taking turns going back and forth, and you want to be the first class to find or figure out where the other class is from. It doesn't always just have to be like geography related. Like sometimes my students will ask, like, does your state have 2 words in it? So like that, if they said yes, we would know it could be like New York or New Hampshire or West Virginia. So you can get creative with the questions, but the one thing I always tell my students is you need to make sure it's like a factual question, not an opinion. Like you don't want to ask, is your state close to the ocean? Because that's, you know, that's an opinion. Maybe I think that Tennessee is close to the ocean, but others don't. So I always just tell them, be very specific. Like, do you border an ocean? Or just, you know what I mean? Like, don't ask, is it cold there? Because that is different to everybody. You don't want to ask that, or those opinion type questions. So try to keep it as factual as possible. And yeah, so you just go back and forth asking yes or no questions to try to figure out where the other class is from. So that's what a Mystery Skype is. Now, afterwards, almost every class I've ever Mystery Skyped with, afterwards we take time to let the kids kind of ask each other questions about, you know, what they do for fun in their state, or what's different about our school. Like I said, I'm from Minnesota, and like the most memorable Mystery Skype we've done has been Hawaii. So my kids had a lot of fun asking them, because they're like, oh yeah, after school we like to go to the beach and go surfing, and it's just like, oh, it's negative 20 degrees here right now. And it was during the winter, so most of them had never saw snow. So we took my laptop outside quick and showed them the snow, and it was like literally below 0 there here when we were Skyping them, and it was like 85 degrees there. So it was just fun to talk about the differences between our school and our states, and all that. So I would also say to have some kind of facts about your state prepared. I know some teachers go through and kind of share some of their state symbols or their sports teams, and just kind of have that information ready. And then I always like to just let them ask questions like, I don't know, they like to ask, like, you know, do you like have gym every day, or what specials do you have, or just random questions the kids like to ask each other. I would say that going through and doing the Mystery Skype, at least in 3rd grade when we're trying to find their state, this part usually does actually go pretty quick. They can usually figure out each other's state within probably about like 10 or 15 minutes, and then we usually have about 10 minutes then for questions. I would usually chunk off about a half hour for each Mystery Skype. So that's an overview of what it is. You're just using yes or no questions to figure out where the other class is from. It's, in my opinion, a lot more engaging way to practice map skills and kind of for kids to kind of figure out like where the states are and which ones, you know, their location, and I'm gonna mess up what's the word I'm trying to say. Oh my gosh, it's too early for this. But anyways, like landmarks and geographical features, is that what I'm trying to say? Just like, you know, like the Mississippi River, that's how I teach my kids the Great Lakes. Then they can recognize the different oceans. In third grade, they still think like Canada's a state, so it's really helpful for us to, you know, kind of distinguish between Canada and Mexico on this map being different countries and not part of our country, and that our states make up the country, so it's really good for that. It's good for their problem solving and critical thinking, and yeah, just all sorts of skills. They have to work as a team because your class is working together, so I love them. I think it's a really, really beneficial thing to work into your classroom. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. The next thing I'm going to talk about is just kind of what it looks like in my room when we're doing one. So when we're Skyping with another class, I have my laptop up towards the front of the room and kind of pointed out towards my classroom. And I have all of my students split up into groups at their tables. And every student has a map. I've had these for years. I just printed them off and then laminated them so they can use whiteboard markers to cross off states we know that it's not, and then they can just wipe them off afterwards. So once they're at their table spots with their maps, I just go around the room and we start at one table. We know this table is going to get to have the first question. So that group would walk up and ask what they want to ask, and the rest of the class needs to be listening. That way we don't double up on questions. So if my first table asked, are you west of the Mississippi River? They would ask that, and then they're going to stay up there for the other class's question. That way they can answer it for them. Then they'll come sit down, and then my next table would go up. And again, we just talk about how you have to be paying attention and you have to be quiet because of the background noise, and that way we don't double up on questions. So that's how I do it in my class. I know some teachers like just to have their whole class out at their spots and just kids raise their hand if they have a question and come up. So you can do it however you want, but that's what I found I like it best when they work with their table spots and the table talks together to come up with their question, and then we just go around and each table gets a turn to ask the question. All right. So next thing I'll talk about is how I introduce and practice Mystery Skypes with my class. So like I said, I have these maps. I have 25 of them. I just printed off. I found this on Google, printed it to our color copier, and then just laminated them. So that's very simple. When I'm practicing, I choose a state. Like I just write a random state on a sticky note and put it in my pocket. And I have the same map pulled up on my computer. And we just talk about how they're gonna ask me yes or no questions about, and try to figure out what states I have in my pocket. And from there, I obviously have to show them like the Mississippi River, where that is. That's when I teach them like these are the Great Lakes. I teach them, okay, we have our oceans. I have to teach them what bordering means. Like do you border the state or border an ocean or border another country. So we have all those conversations, and then they just practice as a class. Kids just raise their hand kind of that first time and ask questions to try to narrow it down. And as they do that, we have a lot of conversations just about the types of questions, because sometimes we want to try to narrow or cross off as many states as possible. So for example, you wouldn't just want to, their habit is just to guess states right away. And we just, you know, practice that, the asking to cross off states, not just trying to guess random states right away. And after we do that a couple of times so they get used to the questions, then I end up having them split in half, and each half of my class comes up with a state and they tell it to me, that way I know, and then they go back and forth, half of the class asking each other, trying to figure out each other's state. And we practice that. We do this a bunch because they get really good at asking the questions. Then they get good at answering the questions as well, because that's a big part of it. If they ask you, do you border another country, you need to know what that means and whether your state does. So we'll do that for a couple of weeks, just getting them comfortable and used to discussing and taking turns asking the questions and crossing off their map. And that's honestly all I really do, is just keep having them practice. Starting with the whole class, just guessing the state that I choose, and then letting them split into groups and choose different states and trying to figure out what the other group chose. And then once they've done that. So like right now this year we've been doing it for a couple of weeks. Things are pushed back because of COVID, but now I will start looking for classes to do our first real one with. And again, when we do our real Skype, we aren't just choosing a random state. The other class is choosing the state we actually live in. It's just when I practice, I have the students choose random states to try to guess. All right, so hopefully this is making sense because I didn't really have a plan for this video. I just pressed record and started talking. So yeah, maps, practice, have them pick states. That's what I do. Last part is, where do I find classes to Mystery Skype with? There used to be a website, like if you Googled Mystery Skypes, where you could like put in your availability times and like find people that way. I only did that like once, so I'm not sure if that's still there. But the way that I do it, or I find the people, is going to be through social media. So if you go on Twitter and search the hashtag Mystery Skype, you'll see people either asking like, hey, we're looking for a class to Mystery Skype on this day, or you'll find people who are posting like, hey, had a great Mystery Skype with this class. So all you need to do then is reply to them, be like, hey, would you be interested in Skyping with my class? And then you just chat with the teacher to find a time that works for you. You exchange emails or usernames so you can Skype or Google Meet or whatever you're gonna do. And you set it up that way. So I would say Twitter's a big one. On Instagram, last year I did make a Google Doc for anyone who was interested in one to like get their emails. So maybe I'll do that again. So check, if you follow me on Instagram, just go to my link in bio and I'll maybe just start a Mystery Skype where people can enter their information so you can email or message people that way. But yeah, I would say social media is gonna be the biggest way to find people. And if once you post about one of yours, like if you do a Mystery Skype, post about it on Twitter, be like, hey, just finished our first Mystery Skype and blah, 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 and use that hashtag Mystery Skype, and other people will find you and connect to you and reply to you that way as well. So yeah, I think that kind of is a very quick overview of Mystery Skypes. Hopefully my explanation of what it is made sense. Hopefully how I introduced it to my class made sense. And if you have other questions, let me know, because like I said, I just clicked record and started talking. So try it out. It's super fun. The kids, you know, almost all of them enjoy it for the most part. I don't ever make any of my students go up in front of the camera if they don't want to for any reason. Like, I'm not gonna force them to, but they still do. They still follow along on their map. They're still crossing off everything on their map, and they can still help talk with their table about coming up with different questions and all that good stuff. So, all right, just, yeah, let me know if this made any sense and if you have any other questions. So thanks for tuning in. Good luck on your Mystery Skypes, and bye.